All right, welcome to our debut installment of me throwing plastic bags on the ground next to cool amplifiers. This is a 1960, late 1959 Vibrasonic amplifier, one of the first ever Brown amplifiers to roll off the assembly line in Fullerton. How do you know that, you may ask? It comes down to these delightful metal knobs. To understand the importance of the metal knobs, you have to back up to the transition to Fender coming out of the Tweed era of cabinet design, where the controls were on top and the back, like the famous Tweed Bassman, to the redesign of that entire look and abandoning Tweed and going with tolex. The modern look that came after Tweed was a forward-facing control panel that really ended up resulting in musicians no longer putting the amplifier in front of them while they played and adjusting from behind the amplifier, but putting the amplifier back against the wall or behind them and then being in the foreground, and then simply turning around to make the adjustments while facing the amplifier. So the first 25 or so amplifiers that had this new look were outfitted with these reflective metal knobs that really bring attention, as you can see, to this area in particular, which is the forward-facing control panel. Given that 90% of the rest of the front of the amplifier looks exactly like the Tweed ones do because of the Tweed style grill cloth here, it was important to draw attention to everything that was new. The other new elements include using solid state or silicone rectifier circuits that cut down on heat and increased available voltage, and also tweaking the phase inverter all resulted in a lot more headroom. And so this amplifier, compared to, say, a Tweed Pro, is it's really no comparison. These early Brown amps, and Brown amps in general, just stay together. They distort a little later. They have more clean headroom overall. So that's kind of the background. This amp puts out about 40 plus watts with two 6L6 GC and push-pull configuration. As I mentioned, with the silicone rectifier. It came with a JBL D130. I pulled that and stored it, and I've got Jensen P15N in here right now, which I just prefer because of the I like a warmer tone. The JBLs are really clean and can be a little bright. So to demonstrate this amplifier, I'd like to put my guitar in the middle position here, and you'll notice that the volume control, like many early Brown amplifiers, is not close to the input but close to the end. Here you've got, it's the middle one of these five, and so that has given rise to these amplifiers being called a middle volume or a center volume control, even reverse volume control. So I've got my volume there, and just like the Tweed amps, a lot of gain rests on these tone controls. So you'll hear, as I turn up, just the treble control, how much the volume goes up as well. And my volume is up. I'm about 75% on my tone. And the same thing for the bass. So they really do get big in a hurry. So that's both controls about halfway. And it just has a nice husky tone with this Jensen in here. It's a little sharper and cleaner even with the JBL, but like I said, I like the warmer tone. So now on the vibrato side, these amps are also, when the vibrato works, it is has a really deep swirl to it. Let's see if this one's going to work with me. Sometimes they take a second to fire up because they're tube driven. So when it comes down to actually using the reverb, just like with the blackface amplifiers, you plug into the vibrato side, but in this case, instead of having a reverb control here, which this amp is not made originally as a onboard reverb amp, it was retrofitted in about 1962, probably because that was the year that Fender first built amps with onboard reverb, the 210 Vibraverb amp, if I'm not mistaken. So the original owner of this 1959 amp had an aftermarket, or basically had the reverb circuit added to the amp. So to use that, you plug into the vibrato side, and then you activate the reverb. Has its own tremolo, treble, and volume, treble, and bass. And you can add treble to the tone of the reverb, that is. Or you can add bass. So there it is, 1960/late 59 Vibrasonic amp. Hope you've enjoyed this installment of Front Porch Amplification. Come see us next time. Who knows what we'll have.